Well, welcome to our first episode. Dr. Sproul, thanks for letting us into your library.
You're very welcome, Steve.
And thanks for this time to visit with you and talk about some books that have influenced you. Now, we've got a few books here that you've identified that might be good candidates for this first episode. I'm going to go ahead and pull this one right here. Now, the first thing I noticed, Dr. Sproul, is this is a pretty tattered cover.
That really is falling apart.
It's falling apart. And I couldn't help but notice that inside here you have tucked away a little note that's a schedule. And I just want to read this to folks. So apparently, we don't know what year this was because there's not a year, but it was in November.
Okay.
And you were at Knox Seminary, and you were staying at a hotel, and you were picked up at 7:45 a.m., and you had to give a lecture on apologetics, and you had a lecture in the afternoon, and then you had to lecture at 6:30 to 9 p.m. on justification. And then finally at 9 p.m. they take you back to your hotel room. So is that a typical day in the life of Dr. R.C. Sproul?
Yes, it was, I should say, yes.
So we're talking about, and one of those lectures was on justification.
Yes.
Now that has a lot to do with this particular book.
Yes.
I told you it's got a tattered cover. It's got your writing all through it. You like to underline.
Yes, I do.
In your books.
And make notes in the margins.
I see all kinds of notes in the margins. And this book is entitled The Canons and Decrees of the Council of Trent. Original text with English translation by the Reverend H.J. Schroeder. O.P.
Yes.
And it was published in 1941. It was published in 1941.
Yes.
So why this book?
Well, it's two sections. One's in Latin and the beginning part's in English. I had a course in seminary from Dr. John Gerstner that the whole course was on the Council of Trent, and this was the whole course. And this was a textbook from that course, and we were actually involved in word-for-word exegesis of the canons and decrees of Trent. And then when I went to graduate school, my professor, Dr. Berkauer, this was during Vatican Council II, and Berkauer was rooming with Hans Küng in Rome during Vatican II. And so he wrote a book during this period called Vaticanus Concili and a New Theologie, Vatican Council and the New Theology.
Yes.
And so he was very much wrapped up in his examination of Roman Catholic theology because of the significance of Vatican II. And so I had a special interest in studying Roman Catholic theology, and although you don't have majors in your doctoral work, it was kind of like a major because really? Berkauer was majorly involved in the council, along with Hans Küng and others. And so between this book on Trent and the book by Berkauer on the Vatican Council,
II.
I was just constantly coming back and referring to Schroeder's Canons and Decrees of Trent, because the Council of Trent was, as you know, the primary prong of the three-pronged counter-reformation of the 16th century, in which the Roman Catholic Church defined de fide the formal definition of their doctrine of justification, along with their doctrine of authority of Scripture and tradition, their teaching on the sacraments and on the rest. And so it was an extremely important moment in church history, and it wasn't just a moment. It took place over several years there in the middle of the 16th century.
Yeah. When you had that course with Dr. Gerstner on this book, the exegesis, I'm assuming, was on the Latin text.
We did both.
You did both?
Actually, yes.
So you could use a little English to help you along. You know, it's interesting when you think about Trent, and as you're telling us about it, it really is a fascinating way to look at what the essence of the Reformation was, and what the Reformers were up to.
I've always said, Steve, that the best way to understand Reformed theology is to see it against the background of classical Roman Catholic theology.
Now, as you understand the movement from Trent to Vatican II and what we sometimes refer to as a post-Vatican II Roman Catholicism, there are some changes, but there are also some things that stay the same.
Particularly the canons and decrees of the Council of Trent. A lot of people think that at Vatican II that doctrines such as like justification were altered significantly, Whereas John the 23rd made it very clear when he called Vatican II that this council was not to be dealing with theology itself, but rather the life of the church. Mm-hmm. And as recently as the Roman Catholic Catechism in the 1990s, yes, it's a strong reaffirmation of the canons and decrees of Trent itself. And so to think that the church has left Trent or really in any significant way modified the decrees of Trent, I think would be misunderstand what's happened.
Trent is still in place.
Absolutely.
It still is the dogma.
Exactly.
And it stands in a polar opposition.
But I mentioned this book from the 1960s where Burkhardt wrote the Vatican II Concilium, the New Theology, where he defined a sharp difference between understanding of Roman Catholic dogma among the theologians of the West and those of the Latin churches, Latin America, Spain, Portugal, but principally Italy. And so you have to understand that there's drifts and changes in the Western Church, and particularly in Germany, Switzerland, and the United States, that are significantly different from what is being held tightly by the Latin Church. And remember that when we talk about Roman Catholicism, it's the Roman Catholic Church, not the New York Catholic Church or the Washington, D.C. Catholic Church. It's the one whose basis is and definitions are found in Rome.
You know, I'm just looking through this while you're talking here, and I see a note that you wrote on the inside flyleaf, and it says, and the word not is underlined, and it says, not cooperate with grace. Would you like to flesh that out for us?
Yeah, well, in their definition of justification in the sixth session there in the Council of Trent, it says that what happens for the sinner to be reconciled to God and to be in a state of salvation, he must assentare and cooperare, assent and cooperate with the grace of God in order to be justified. So it is, and if you look even back at regeneration, it's not monergistic, it's synergistic. It's a cooperative venture. Yeah. And my note to myself there was, I was opposing what I was reading.
No, it isn't. That's right.
No, it's no there's not a cooperation there. It's not a cooperative venture between nature and grace as far as salvation is concerned.
And aren't we glad?
Boy, I sure am.
How can we contribute anything to bringing about our salvation? Well, Dr. Sproul, this has been a delightful time to visit and spend some time with you in your library and your books. Now, I did notice, and maybe we'll come back to this sometime, that little nugget you threw out there of Berkhauer rooming with Hans Kung at Vatican II.
Yes.
That's a conversation in and of itself.
Yeah, sure is.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.